Hey y'all, and welcome back to Tabspace 2.0. I am so glad to be back finally. Your girl was going through it, and life is always gonna life, so up and down, but we gonna get back into our content game. So this story I absolutely had to cover. I was watching one of my favorite content creators. Her name is Swoop, and she basically does documentaries, what she calls deep dives, and then she be going to Petty University sometimes, and she be talking about a lot of the things that go on the internet, the viral sensations. But I like her content specifically because it's more mental health focused to an extent, and it also is well rounded, so she doesn't just look at one perspective. I feel as though if you only listen to one person's perspective on something, there's multiple sides to every story. Most people say you got one person's side and then the other person's side, and then the truth lays somewhere in the middle normally, because people's perceptions of issues tend to have the bias of, I love myself, I'm not going to put myself in a position where... My bad, y'all. So basically what I was trying to say is, I'm not going to paint myself in a light that makes me look like I'm wrong. I'm not going to consciously do something wrong or consciously put myself in the position of somebody that's doing the wrong thing, if that makes sense. So when people tell stories about things that happen, there are a lot of times where they leave certain parts out, or I wouldn't say stretch the truth, but they make the story make them look better in that scenario. Some people do it consciously, some people don't do it consciously, but I think most people are going to want to defend themselves in any situation where wrongdoing is happening. Both people are going to want to defend themselves. It takes removing your emotion and removing that bias in order to get to the point where you see another person's perspective and they see yours as well, and you have to be able to do so in order to move forward in issues. So that said, I want my channel to also look at all perspectives of an issue, because if I go off of the account of one person and don't get the facts about it from others, an outsider's point of view, the other person's point of view, I think that it's doing everybody an injustice. And I just experienced something like that the other day. I was listening to a video, and from me not having the context that I needed, I initially gravitated towards one conclusion about the story because I didn't have everybody's perspective. Once I got everyone's perspective, I was like, oh, so everybody kind of had their own part to play in doing some things right and some things wrong. And everybody, in various situations throughout your life, you're gonna make decisions that they seem right in the moment and they probably were not, and you're gonna make decisions that are right in the moment, and you have to own both of those decisions, especially if you plan to heal and move forward. Take them both, be accountable for both of them, take that opportunity to learn from it, not do it again if you did something wrong, repeat it if it was something right that you did in the situation. All we want to do is grow. I don't look at any situation with the intention to immediately put something fully on one person. I'm not the type of person that feels as though you should blame people for things. I think that when altercations happen, there's usually a reason on both ends. And if we all understand each other's perspective, then we can all put ourselves in a position to have better relationships moving forward. So that was my point of getting all that I know it took me a little minute to get it all out, but I'm just getting back to y'all. So work with me. Hold on. I'm going to mute my I'm gonna have to mute my notifications for a while. Okay. Alright, y'all, so let's get into it. So basically the video that I had watched, it was about the viral Kendra situation with her psychiatrist. Hopefully most of y'all have heard of it, but if you haven't, for context, basically there's this woman that went and created a telenovela about how she was in love with her psychiatrist, and she felt that there were things that he did that were inappropriate, and one of them was keeping her as a patient. And, you know, I'll kind of skip past all that because it's really not that important. If y'all are interested, I would suggest watching the Swoop documentary. I will link it in the description. And also, if you don't know about the Kendra situation, it's a doozy, so maybe watch it if you want to. If you look up Kendra fell in love with my psychiatrist, you'll find it. I don't remember what the actual name of the series was, but you'll find it. So, anywho, in that video, Swoop decides to talk to a psych nurse about her perspective on the situation from a mental health professional's standpoint, which I liked, because that thing about being well-rounded and understanding all perspectives of a situation, you get one person's side, you get another person's side, and then you can, you know, use that to make your own decision of what might be the truth, because you weren't there, you don't know what happened. So that said, she starts to talk about how this woman wrote an article about what it was like to be a psych nurse during COVID, and it stuck out to me. I was very tuned in on that part of the interview, and I've considered possibly paying for Patreon and watching the whole interview on my Patreon, because I would have to watch it on Patreon. So if y'all would be interested in that, let me know in the comments, and maybe we can make that happen. But anywho, so the video pointed me to the article. The article was very interesting to me, so I wanted to share it with y'all because I was not aware of this. I'm very, I love mental health stuff. I didn't know about this aspect of mental health during the pandemic. It was more difficult for mental health professionals than I had really originally thought. I knew that there were struggles, and I knew that the mental health field was struggling as far as staffing and things like that, but I didn't quite realize the gravity of it. So I felt called to make this video to shed light on how bad it really was, and to kind of make this a call to action, not only for myself, since I want to be in this field, for me to take the next steps to get to that point. So this is putting a fire under my butt to get my degree. But also, I want anybody that is mental health focused as well and is not pursuing that for whatever reason, I'm calling you to action as well. And we can hold each other accountable. And let's do it. Let's go to school. Let's get our degree. Let's help the mental health field. Because when crises like diseases happen on a mass scale, like the thing that we dealt with from 2020 to 2024, 2023, whenever everything started opening back up. when things like that happen, I didn't realize just all the aspects that go into how well the mental health field is staffed. And there was another interesting point that what is her name? Clarice? I think it's Clarice if I'm pronouncing it right. I hope I'm not pronouncing it incorrectly. But anyway, she had made an interesting point, and she was saying that the same issues that were troubling in 2020 and are troubling now have been the same issues from back in the 70s, and it hasn't gotten better. And I think that the issue is there's not enough people. There's not enough people that want to do it. And maybe there are enough people that want to do it, but they're not willing to take the risk enough to do it. So I'm asking, if you are one of those people, let's do it, because they need our help. So let's get into that. So Clarice Casolino, probably tanked the name, so I'm sorry. But she's a psych nurse and an author of an article that starts by noting that the psych ward wasn't initially affected by the thing from 2020 to 24. Due to the media and government regulations, most people were too afraid of the hospital unless there was a dire need for it. And I would make an educated guess that most people didn't feel their mental health was worth risking for their health and their life at that time. So over time, more wards, they converted to that illness floors, and staff was diverted. Now, keep this in mind as we go through the article, that there's less staff, there's less space available for the patients that could be in mental health crisis. So that problem right there, that just started because of the fact that they needed those areas for the people with that illness, it's not that bad right now while we're at this point in the article, but just keep in mind those two factors. So at this time, Clarice notes that she felt useless not being able to help ICU nurses and on those disease floors. Sorry, I'm just going to keep saying that disease so we can avoid, all that. But little did she know that she would soon be forced to learn on the spot just how difficult and mentally taxing it was to be one of these nurses. As the weather warmed, my turn would come. I can peg the date just before the 4th of July 2020 as fireworks went off above. Hellfire was simmering below. It had been nearly 4 months of fearful patients avoiding the inside of a hospital and during these months their mental health clinics closed. Their support groups were suspended and virtual care dominated, which left patients without internet access and they were hung out to dry. So patients are now unable to go to mental health clinics. They can't go to their support groups. Virtual care has dominated, and patients without internet access, they don't have any way to get a hold of their mental health providers. So from a place of knowing what it's like to have a mental illness, I could not personally imagine being without my medication, being without my doctor, being without my entire treatment team for an indefinite at this point amount of time, what that would do to my mental health. Like any disease that you need like a maintenance drug, you have to be monitored closely, and maybe not closely to the point where you have to be in a hospital, but closely enough to where you need to talk to somebody about it. So if you can't do that, your mental health is going to decline badly. And this starts to kind of make sense where we have these little incidents like the woman that went to, where was it? The Middle East, somewhere in the Middle East, and she was demanding all this stuff, and people were hee hee ha ha about it. And it was bizarre and interesting because it was like, okay, girl, like, do your thing. She was really commanding the space. But they said that she was in a mental health crisis, and things like that became very prevalent where people were just doing weird stuff. And I was starting to, I was starting to wonder why. But now that I think about it, like, imagine not being able to do anything about your mental health and you have a serious mental health condition. I could not imagine that. So it's going to become an even bigger problem. So when they finally came to the psych ward, they were very sick. They had gone months without medication, support systems had been cut off, and many were laid off from their work. Night after night, day after day, NYPD and EMS brought patients, each one sicker than the last. So now, mind you, we don't have as much space and we don't have as many providers. And now people with severe mental illness that has been unmedicated and untreated for months are now being driven in droves to these facilities, the few that are still open. Messed up. Very messed up. So I feel as though, like, for one, there needs to be some form of forethought for if another situation like this were to arise. How do we make sure that mental health professionals have enough funding and support that if anything happens, people can still get their medicine no matter what? People can still get a hold of somebody to talk to for mental health. Mental health help. Excuse me. We have to do something about that. So normally patients in the wards would display a spectrum of severity. Only a few patients at a time would be considered an extreme case. When there are a high number of these patients, we would consider the acuity of the psych ward to be high. So if I have 3 cases of a severe mental illness, how much attention needs to be focused on those 3 people is enough that other people are not going to get the care that they need, is what I understand from that. So imagine if everybody is a severe case. How do you split up your time? How do you make sure that these patients are taken care of and that they're getting taken care of adequately? How can you do that? You need more people. You need more. First off, prevention, right? So the prevention would be making sure that we have a plan moving forward for what happens if this happens again. And second off, if the prevention fails, if we're unable to prevent it, now what do we do in this scenario? Because this is a bad situation. We need more people. Maybe even bigger facilities. I don't know what else all is needed, but I know that, like, those are probably good places to start anyway. So as acuity increases, the level of patient aggression follows. So now people are getting upset because you don't have time for me and I'm in crisis. You don't have time for me and I'm mentally ill. I need my mental health medication. I need help from you. I need whatever it is that is required of you, I need that. All of these people need it. So we need enough people to make sure that everybody can get what they need. So not only did she experience violence at the hands of the people that she wanted nothing more than to help, but she had to deal with patients passing in front of her eyes due to the pandemic. She says death was everywhere. Her unskilled hands now routinely performed chest compressions and post-mortem care. People were dying one after one. She delicately crossed her arms before placing them in a body bag. It became normal. She became numb. And I can only imagine that you go to school for 12 years to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a psych nurse, not a regular nurse. And one day, all of a sudden, now you have to try to save people, stop them from losing their lives, or say goodbye to them if they do. That's deep. That's dark. That was not what she signed up for. That's not what she paid all that money to go to school to do. That's what somebody else paid a lot of money to go to school paid to do. That's money somebody else paid a whole lot of money to a school to do. But that's not what she did. That's not what she intended to do. And that's what she got. And that right there is terrifying. So there is learning from this that you have to be prepared that if you get into the medical field at all, if you get into the medical field at all, there could be a point where you have to see some things that could really mess you up mentally. And you got to be prepared for that. So as much as I want people to join the field, it is good to know that that's a possibility, a part of the job, possibly. It's not the routine part of the job, but in a extenuating circumstance like that disease, anything could happen. So prepare yourself mentally for that. And ask yourself if you're willing to deal with that. Like if you're willing to put your emotions to the side and be able to do that job the way that it's needed to be done in whatever time that you decide to do it. She said that they dropped like flies in psych. Each injury sustained was increasingly more serious. Nurses and staff suffered wounds, including black eyes, concussions, broken ribs, bites, and 2 torn retinas. The number of staff and nurses available dwindled as the patient load increased. Many nights she was left as the only nurse, taking on 30 patients, and told to thank her manager when she was given 2 staff members to assist. In psych, they have this 1-to-1, meaning one staffer watches one patient. These patients are usually actively the S word or a violence risk. Each night, I alone was responsible for a minimum of 3 1-to-1 patients. It was only one staff member and me, yet she was expected to carry out the duties of 3 nurses, 4 staff positions. And, of course, give her manager a thank you for the extra help. Why there's an expectation for me to thank you when I need even more help than that? Don't get me wrong. Something's better than nothing, right? And maybe you don't have anything else available to you. But this is a lot. These people are supposed to be one patient, one doctor. And she's responsible for 3. So she's 2 over her ratio. That's crazy. So here were 6 patients in one bedroom. There were 6 patients in one bedroom with a single bathroom between them. They had to restrain patients every day. Security came to the wards to break up fights or calm other grossly psychotic patients. And that's extremely unfortunate. In terms of living conditions for the psych patient, it was terrible for a number of reasons. Number one is when you're in these types of places, you want nothing more than your privacy and space. On top of the fact that during that disease, 6 people to a room was an extreme COVID risk. And lastly, many mental illnesses can lead to overstimulation in crowded spaces. Attempting to get care in a crowded room could drive even the most sane person to lose it. And then you factor in mental illness and you've opened the door for conflict. So think about that. 6 people to one room when you're supposed to only be one person in a room. Extreme COVID risk. Like, how terrifying. Then you have to yourself worry about getting COVID every day, walking into these rooms, being in these situations. Dang. Like, I didn't realize how bad that the mental health field was going through it. I didn't. See, so a lot of the nurses experience major mental health and physical detriments to the point where the nursing field is beginning to dwindle down. So basically, data is showing that less and less people want to be nurses. Less people want to go into the profession and less people want to be in the profession. And they have legitimate concerns and they're demanding change. And if they don't get change, then they don't want to be there anymore. And you know what? That's honestly respectful. Not respectful. Respectable. I get it. I would feel the same way because these conditions are terrible. Terrible. So yes. The only way for it to get better is for more people to join into the mental health field, the nursing field, all of these things. Everybody wants to be a podcaster, me included. Everybody wants to do, other types of jobs. Not a lot of people want to be on the front lines. Not a lot of people want to be police officers or firefighters or in the military or doing something that's like a noble profession. A lot of people are completely fine with either doing something that requires a little bit less energy or doing something that will just pay the bills and is not something that they really want to do. And that's completely fine. And I respect that because that is your right. You can make that choice. And I think that that's a great option as well. That's what I've been doing for these years. But now I'm starting to feel more called because I feel like what better time is it than a time where it needs the most help for me. So it's time. It's time. So nursing shortages are expected to be at a national 10% shortage of registered nurses in 2027, with non-metro areas facing a more severe 24% shortage compared to metro areas 7%. The shortage is projected to continue through at least 2037, although the national percentage is expected to decrease 6% by that year. That is terrible, y'all. That is what we gonna do if we don't have nurses? I could do without a podcast, but if I'm sick, I need me a good nurse. I need me a good nurse. So, there's that. So what we can do as patients and what can we as future healthcare workers and patients do to help this whole situation? So as patients, we need to get more involved in political policies that will help fund and progress the nursing and mental health field. We need to vote on bills that provide these nurses with resources, security, fundings, programs, and affordable enough Make the programs affordable enough for more future nurses to join the field without incurring massive amounts of debt that deter them from going into the field to begin with. I think that's the main reason people don't want to go to school. It's expensive as hell to go to school. And it's like, I'm going to pay a whole lot of money so that way I could go work a job where I pay for the schooling that it took for me to get the job. And it feels like a catch-22. And I think that the price is worth it to pay if you have a passion for this thing. I wouldn't go to college to do something that I just want to do because it's going to make me this certain amount of money. That's not enough reason for me to be in a field and make that my career. A job is a job. I don't have to like my job. I don't have to love my job. None of that. But when I choose to sit down and actually begin my career, I want it to be something that I really have wanted to do my entire life. Which is exactly why I make this podcast anyway, because I like talking about mental health. I really do. And what better way to do that than to go into the field that I have had my eyes on since before I even graduated high school. But that said, I think that we need to we got to get out there, get better versed. And when I say we, I mean me too. I'm not just saying y'all. I mean me too. Like, I have to get more involved in politics. I need to be more conscious of it. I have to pay more attention because these things do affect me. And there was a point where I believed that they did not, but I was wrong. They do. They affect me every single day. The decisions that are made in the White House are going to affect me and you and your brothers and sisters for the rest of our lives. So it's time to get more involved. And when it comes to doctors, even though nobody likes going to the doctor, no one likes getting teeth pulled or painful cleanings or whatever, no one likes getting shots. But these are the things that are keeping us alive. And these are the people keeping us alive. So we have to care about them. Or at least I think I do. Anyway. So we can also keep in mind that we do not know what kind of patients our nurses and doctors have been dealing with throughout the day, and make it an effort to be their one kind and compassionate patient. I always try to be extra nice when I'm at the doctor's office. Even if I'm in the most pain on the planet, I'm going to try to be nice because I don't know what kind of day you've had. And that's just like general practice for me in my life, is to be nice because I don't know what kind of day you've had. But I would consider that as well. Because you don't know how close to the end of somebody's rope that they are before you walk into that office. If you putting a smile on your face and being kind to them makes their day better, why not? Who's it hurting? I know it can be frustrating to sit in the doctor's office and wait to be seen and feel like you're not getting the quick care that you want. But you got to think twice before you're being rude to your doctor and your nurse, and understand that one bad nurse is not a monolith. All nurses are not bad because you had one bad one. A lot of us are all or nothing people. All black people did something really wrong to me, so I don't like black people. A white person did something wrong to me, so I don't like white people. This person did this to me, so I don't like the group that they come from. And I don't like this and I don't like that. And it's just like, you cannot like one person for their actions. You can hold one person accountable without hating everybody else that comes after them that takes on that role for you. So consider that. because I don't know how many people do keep that in mind. Um, and I think that it's important to keep it in mind. I think that one of the biggest ways that we can support the cause is to bring awareness to it. So that's not only that's the reason why I'm here having this conversation with you. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed walking through this, and I hope that it inspires you to do what you can to help anybody that is in the mental health profession. Love your mental health care workers extra hard. Try to get involved in the politics, try to vote when things are on the ballot for mental health. But yeah, let's all try to make the world a better place, for not only for ourselves, but for our fellow humans. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to see y'all next time. Bye.